All right, we're live. We're celebrating an amazing day today with Jane Powers and her book, Revealing the Missing Piece. And we're just so excited. I'm Becky Norwood with Spotlight Publishing, and we usually have names showing at the bottom. I wonder what's with that. Anyway, Jane, nice to see you again today, and celebration, a really big celebration for this fantastic book that is coming to the world. Let's talk about this book and exactly why you wrote the book, what it's all about, and what somebody that picks it up and reads it hopes to gain from it.
First and foremost, our names aren't up there because we are household names. If you don't know that already, we are household names. If you don't know our names, you should not be on here. So, as you know, I'm Jane Powers, and most of you know me as a speaking and sales coach. My claim to fame is my intromercial, and quite frankly, the reason that I do the work that I do is based on my history, based on my past, because the most important thing that I feel that you can do in your life is find your voice. Most people want to find a funnel. They want to find a JV partner. They want to find a talk. I even help people with that. They want to find a message. They want to find the perfect brand. And I've been an entrepreneur for over 20, I think we're going on 25 years or more. And I started working in social services. I started out in the prison, drug and alcohol treatment centers. I worked in the community doing sexual abuse prevention, interventions, you name it, I did it. And then I've had a number of adjustments in my career. And
as many of us.
Unfortunately, I probably had more terminations than most. And I'm somewhat proud of that, and I'm not proud of that, because what I understood is that the only way that I could be successful was to understand who I am from the inside out.
Absolutely.
And most people look at life and go, oh gosh, how do I fit in? And my whole life, I've always asked, how do I not follow the crowd? Like, if everybody's going right, I just go left. I don't even care what's left. It doesn't matter. Everything wonderful could be right, but I want to go left because I wanted to find my power. But Becky, I grew up the invisible kid. Most people
know that one. I know that one too well.
But most people look at me and they go, I don't believe it.
You never show that. I mean, to me, you're like, wow, look at what she's accomplished, and she's amazing, and you're just bold and out there, and it's pretty amazing. It's totally
Thank
good.
you. And I was not that. I would fade into the woodwork. I didn't want to stand out. My God, if people noticed me, I would find a way to deflect attention. So I didn't want anyone to find out the truth. What is the truth behind my life?
Yes.
And I did many years ago. I used to describe my life as Schindler's List. Do you remember the movie with that young boy who was in the potty? I don't know what you call it, the sewage, and he just was looking up out of the sewage where they were hiding him. That's what I felt my life was like. My life felt like the Holocaust. It was every day was, I hope I make it to tomorrow. Now, I wasn't being beaten. I wasn't being knocked around. I was being sexually abused, but I didn't know any different. I didn't. I thought this is how it was, because it was from the moment I was, brought into this world. And I had no idea it was not the norm. And I didn't until I was in my 20s, and I put my fist through a dorm window. I was in a domestic violent relationship. I put my fist through a dorm window. I scratched my head and I went, man,
what's wrong with me?
Something is wrong with me. I remember my mother had passed when I was young. I was in, and I remember going to my father my freshman year of high school, and I said, I think I'm going crazy. I need a psychiatrist. I don't know. Maybe I saw a movie or something, but I said, I need a psychiatrist. And he goes, oh, you're fine. Oh. Well, what a smart man. He was the main perpetrator. He was like, but the reason I have written this book, I made a determination when I put my fist through that window and started into my journey of healing. I said, someday I must, I don't have a choice. I must tell my story in a way that helps others.
Right.
And,
Absolutely.
and that was that was so important to me to be able to, here's what I would do. I would go into therapy, and I've said this a million times. If I did not come out like someone just beat me to a pulp, I wasn't drenched with sweat, my eyes were puffy, I would be like, I didn't get my money's worth.
Right. What's wrong with this picture? Who did it?
Yeah,
They're not doing their job.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, that therapist is the worst because I'm not wrung out. And what I realized was that I kept reclaiming the story. Every time I told the story, I kept reclaiming it, re-victimizing. And then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I got smaller and smaller. So
Yeah. You oftentimes just live you live in the story so much that it weighs you down. And especially when it happens when you're very young, like that, the sexual abuse and the other types that goes along with it is, as you go into adulthood, you don't know what normal is. You don't have something deep inside you says there's something else, but you don't have the barometer of this, what normal and what is normal for that matter. But
and then what becomes our normal is there's that sense of, I'm going to be found out. There's something innately wrong with me. There's a part of me that is broken. There's a part of me that is dirty, shameful, blameful.
Absolutely.
We take on,
we take it on and we just weigh ourselves down with so much that you can hardly even breathe, let alone show up in the world in a positive way.
And people would know. I went back to my teachers and coaches and I would be like, so tell me what you thought of me. And they're like, oh, you were strong, you were brilliant, we're all this. And I'm thinking, here's what was happening in my life. And they're like, how did you do that? And what happens, this is my mission is, I knew I was making the money. I had the houses, I had the cars, I had the friends, I had the investments, I had the fun, but I was missing that one thing. There was that one thing missing. And that's where this book came out of the rubble of what I call my life. But despite success, despite all your achievements, despite all the accomplishments, I promise you, if you have lived through any level of trauma, I don't care if you served in the military, PTSD is a real live thing. And it doesn't mean, right, but it doesn't mean, Becky, it's not like, oh, fireworks go off and I'm having a reaction. COVID happens, people will have a reaction if they have any level of trauma. So I can give you an example. My sister says, I don't remember anything, don't really care if anything happened. It's not, I don't even want to remember a thing. And she doesn't remember fun, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I keep telling her, dig for what is in there. And I don't mean sit every day and find what's in like this, find the junk. What I'm saying is react and understand why you are reacting to things, because it will come up. It's like trying to hold a giant beach ball under the water. It's coming up. And what I see, and I've worked with a lot of executives around this topic. I've worked with a lot of high-powered entrepreneurs, and I've worked with gainfully employed individuals, everything in between. And what I see is there's that one common thread. And my theory is that common thread is self-acceptance.
Yes.
Because absolutely. when we're raised or abused, it doesn't just happen unless it's a sexual assault. That's a different story. Unless somebody, jumps us and takes our money and beats us up. That's a different situation. If it is a planned assault or a calculated process, here's what happens. there is a program that becomes part of your DNA. It becomes part of your cellular makeup.
Yes.
This is how you operate. I'll give you a great example. Nobody ever scare me. If you ever are around me, don't jump out and scare me, because I will punch you and knock you out. Like, honestly, it is part of my DNA. I grew up in so much fear that I went into a haunted house. I have no business in a haunted house. I haven't gone for years, but when I did, the poor guy, just doing his job, jumped out, scared me. I clocked him in the gut. He went to the ground. I ran. But it was just my reaction.
Mm-hmm.
We have reactions based on the programming in our mind. Anything that has gone into, right, don't talk to strangers, look both ways. That information, early bird gets the worm. We get that ingrained in our mind. And if we have lived through trauma, we tolerate way too much in life.
Oh, we do. And I think also, having experienced sexual abuse myself as a very young child, your perception really changes, and in the sense you feel like it's normal, and you accept it and you tolerate, and because you really don't have anything else to compare it with, you just think that that's the way it's supposed to be, or that's the way it happens for everybody, because you don't know. And then when you grow up and you've had all of that, so many times I'm in groups of women, and a lot of, being a publisher and working with people that are sharing their stories, or even writing groups. And I've been invited to speak in writing groups. And the common response is, who would want to read my story? Who would want to know about this? And yet writing is such a healing tool. It's one of the amazing tools that's out there to go into the healing process. But that overall feeling of lack of self-worth and very low self-esteem is part and parcel of what we grow through as adults even. And our enjoyment of life is so miniature compared to what it can be, until we work our way through this, until we take these steps. And your book is amazing for being able to really give that step-by-step process of really stopping and looking at it, and then taking those steps to improve, because it sure beats the alternative. It's just incredible what it can do to transform your life.
And let me be clear. Let me be crystal clear. Like, people are like, why is she smiling and so happy? She lived through hell. Yeah, I get it. But what I've been able to do through this process, and please understand this, my early on process was a grueling, I mean, we're talking 20 some years of grueling torture I put myself through, because I didn't understand the capabilities of my mind. And what this book does is, if you know me, you know anything about me, I am this shortcut queen. If there is a wall, I'm going through it. I'm telling you, if there are 10 steps, I'm doing 1 to 10. I will shortcut every single thing that I do. My goal with this book is to hack the healing process, is to reduce your past to a gross inconvenience. And trust me, there's only a short, I think about one in a minute in there, a chapter on my story. And because nobody cares about my story. Nobody cares about my story. Why did I write it in there? Why do I have some of my journal drawings in there? Because I wanted to demonstrate that if I can go through what I have, anybody can. And I'm not saying.
But it makes it relatable. It makes it relatable.
And what I find is many people with trauma, there's a lot of one-upping trauma. It's a weird thing, but it's just someone screaming out for validation and empathy. And because I've been in many groups, and people are like, well, share your story. And then I'll share my story, and they'll go, oh, you think that's bad? Here's mine. And it's just a cry for validation. So this book will validate where you've been. I do not care if someone looked at you funny. That, to you, if it's trauma, we're healing that crap. Like,
Right.
it doesn't matter if you got fired from a job. And you'll see in the book, we brought Denise into the book, and I had to do that because I adore her and love her, but she's also been my test subject through this process. And I am so jealous. Becky, I'm so jealous that I didn't have this book when I was going through my
Oh,
stuff.
I know. I so know
I'm
that,
so
and I
pissed.
understand it. And that you brought up a subject that is pretty interesting, is that one-upping thing, and it's really a cry for help. It's a
It is.
it's a cry that you just, because I think most of us, we want to get better, we want to heal. We're tired of the depression that comes, and feeling less than, and just not feeling that burst of joy in life, and we want something better. And that cry, that, well, mine's worse, and we don't. None of us hold a corner on the market for what is worse or what is not worse. It's how it affected us and what it has done to us, and that's why you wrote this book. That is why you took it upon yourself to kind of really just play it out, and this is what happened to me. But you're not saying poor me, and you're not saying I had it worse than you. It That's not what you're saying. What you're saying is, let's get over it. Let's live these wonderful, rich, full lives.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you said joy, the joy bursting. I remember, and people on the outside would say, "Man, Jane has got it good." But every night I would go home and I would cry because something was missing. I
That
couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together. Yes, that ache that was calling for more, but I just didn't. And this will show up in business. This will show up when you're doing sales, when you're looking for a promotion. It will show up when you're going on a dating site. Oh, that's way out of my league, or I'll never get the job because I'm too old, too fat, too short, too tall, too skinny, too
to everything.
something,
Yeah.
to everything. Again, this is what shocked me. So I start working with Denise because she had no memories. And then prior to meeting me, she started having some memories come up. And I'm like, well, here's what I can teach you. And I'm so mad because she's like, excellent. I did the 3 steps and this is where I'm at. But it's such an interesting process. But as I was going through, people would look on the outside world and I had this success, but it was missing. There was something missing inside. But I used to say, oh, wait, hang on. Yes, I feel a little joy bubble. Crap, it's gone. Like I'm like, no, come back. But
Right.
I think what happens in our, specifically in the sexual realm, sexual abuse, we earn a place of feeling shameful. Somehow it could have been our fault. Domestic violence, same thing. I stayed too long. I let him get away with it. Whatever the case may be, we take
Shame,
it
guilt, and
on.
fear. Yeah.
Yeah, and instead of saying, okay, my bad, shame on me, or when we're being abused as children, I'm telling you, Becky, I couldn't understand. I beat myself up for years, many, many years ago, that I did not fight off my family members and
That's
extended
exactly what
family.
we do. That we take
And
it upon ourselves.
I looked at pictures. I was like this big. I'm telling you, I was the tiniest little thing. And I thought, where would you get the power to even do that? But most everything that I took with me was that shame, and it was my fault and I should have stopped it. And I'll tell you, I share the fact that I grew up so angry. That is what saved my life. I've never been suicidal. I've never been on medication. I've never been addicted. I never had an eating disorder. I've not. I would go into therapists and they're like, you should be dead. And I believe because I had a desire for more and it pissed me off that I didn't have it. And I would fight. So literally, I want people to fight for their lives. And here's the truth. if you do not evolve beyond your past will dictate your future.
Absolutely. Right.
If you do not rewrite your story, if you do not reprogram that mind, I'm going to tell you, you will continue to procrastinate. You will continue to self-sabotage. You will continue to fall short of your success. You'll continue to be competitive. There's so much. And I like relating it to business, because the only reason you don't have success is here. And it's from
Absolutely.
your past.
And also it's attracting the wrong people into our lives. It goes into every fiber of who we are.
Yeah. And here's what I want people to understand is, if you've had a past, we all have. We all have. If you had a past, I promise you, it is writing your future. Unless you are awake, unless you are intentionally determining what needs to be looked at. Now, I'm not saying do an archaeological dig. Don't go pull up those wounds, put the salt on the wound and go, see, this is why my dear friend, Jay Facette and I work together, love this man. And he, I just love him. And one time he turned to me and he goes, I won't say the words he says, he loves the F-bomb, but he said to me, oh my God, I did not realize you started about 7 miles behind the starting line. And man, that truly hit home to me, because that's exactly what happened is I started so far behind the starting line. But here's the other thing that happened. I would fall short of my goal, and I would say, well, if you had a family like mine, you too would be retarded in your advancement. Oh, I used that one too long. And I'm not saying it's not, but it's real, Becky, isn't it? It's real.
It's so real. It's beyond funny. It's too real. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter where you started. I honestly, I look at so many situations that I used my excuse to tame the disappointment in myself. See, we're masters.
Yeah, but when it gets so painful, that is no longer an alternative. That's when we start to make the turnaround, where we say, no, I'm done with this. And what is so remarkable about your book is that it shortcuts a lot of that whole process, and it just gets down to the root of it and takes care of it. And that's what the purpose behind why you wrote is, because your heart knows what that feeling is, and that's why you're able to stand up and lead in the way that you are.
Yeah, and it's, don't take the long journey. The long journey sucks.
Too painful.
I'll tell you, I 5 years ago, I was just, I was living in what life expected of me. I mean, I was still a rebel. I was a radical. but I had that one thing, and that's in the next book. But the one thing was the shame I felt around my dirty little secrets, or the thoughts that I had. And the thoughts can range from, like, I used to think, I'm going to freaking kill my father. Like, honestly, I had more thoughts of that. That could be your shameful secret to, hey, I have these fantasies that I want to express and experience. And I don't care if it's from the bedroom, as my dear friend Sharon would say, from the bedroom to the boardroom. And if whatever your thoughts are inside, I promise you there's a set of them that you discount and call them bad, dirty, because it reminds us of our past. I did not want to think certain thoughts because it said you are your past.
Yes.
But unfortunately, we become programmed. Now we've got to use it to our benefit. We've got to use it to what is the most positive thing that can come from our story. So whatever was in your past, you've got to transform it into a workable future. And
Absolutely.
so if anybody emails me and it's this lengthy, long paragraph, I'm like, oh, somebody read this and tell me what the heck it is. But if someone sends me an email and it's got bullet points, I'm reading it because it's quick, it's easy, it's to the point. That's this book. This book, I mean, it's lengthy, but I'll tell you, the way it is written is for you to nail a chapter, go change your life. Nail the next chapter, go change your freaking life. Like, there's no processing and zenning and meditating. There is, but you can do it while you're being successful.
It's so different that way. And I think back to one of the events on the You Speak with Confidence, Sell with Authority, when we did the makeover type thing.
Yes.
And what a transformation that was for me to be able to experience it. But at the same time, there was still that deep down, don't want the attention. I'm not worthy. It was all of these things that were still going on. And, be done with it. I'm tired of it,
But you know what? Our past is an abuse, trauma is the gift that keeps on giving.
It does.
And I want to emphasize, it's funny because I wrote this based on my story, the emotional, the sexual, the abuse that occurred, we say abuse does not discriminate. I grew up in the country club. I mean, and some think, oh, well, that's for the socioeconomic level. Oh, forget about it. I tell you, there is more going on in the world than we even want to know about, and to every degree. But I wrote this based on, this is for sexual abuse survivors. And we actually changed the promise of the book because we had so many people reading it and they were not sexually abused, and they were coming back and saying, my mom was an alcoholic. This is what happened with me. My mom was an alcoholic. I share some of that in there because alcoholism is a form of abuse. Because what you're saying is she loved the bottle and pills more than me, or he loved the cocktail and the bar more than me. It's a form of abuse.
There's so many kinds of abuse, and there's no comparing because it affects us in many different ways. Even for those that have been in the military and have seen horrible things, it's a whole different thing. So it's not just the sexual abuse, it's everything that kind of goes hand in hand with that. And so this book is not just for women, it is also for men.
Yes,
because the process is the same. And until we can kind of rise above that and take a look at it, because the alternative is certainly not funny. The depression, the never stepping into your greatness is just not worth it. It's time. And that's what's beautiful in what you're doing. For listeners, be sure and pick up a copy of this book because this is an amazing book. But what I like about it is that the shortcuts let's not take 10 years, 15, 20, or all our life to go through the pain of it all. Let's get over with it and serve in this world and happiness and a joyfulness in a way that can impact others. Because what you're doing, Jane, is kind of that ripple effect that goes out, that vibrational frequencies that are saying we can do this. And the more of us that do it, the better off our world's going to be.
Yeah. And also in there, I talk a lot about, I look at Denise when she has foggy memories. I was blessed with a movie reel of my history. I mean, I have details and, I begged for that because I wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe myself if I'm like, something it feels like abuse. And then that other part of me would be like, that is ridiculous. You're making up things. My father would say, oh my God, you have the best imagination on the planet. And, part of that was, it's about, if you just know something is missing, read the book. Like, honestly, it doesn't, you don't have to say, oh, well, when I was 5, when I was 8, when I was 10, when I was 13, when I was 28, it doesn't matter. What I want you to understand, if there's that something, and I say that because For each person, it's different. If there is something missing, I promise you, this book will walk you through a realization that you can embrace the results of your story, whatever your story is, because we're going to recreate that. You know, I look at Denise. Denise was on 6 medications, 45 pounds overweight, a bottle of wine a night, and going through this process, she has dropped over 45 pounds, no meds, no drinking, and loves, the woman would never stand on a stage, and now she keeps begging for COVID to free up because she wants to be on stages. So this is such a different experience. It's a paradigm shift. It's a new way of thinking, and it's fast tracking that process that each and every one of us at some point has thought about going through or has gone through. So I could go on for days.
You could, and
talking about it,
and you will, and eventually. But the amount of endorsements that you've had for this book, because you had people pre-read the books for this event for your launch time, and incredible words that they shared. And you really have to get a picture or a copy of the book to read all of those endorsements, because we couldn't even put them all in the on Amazon for the comments in the endorsement section. There wasn't enough room. And so to really get the essence of what Jane's talking about, pick up a copy of the book. It's right now, it's just $10, and it will go up after the launch, but take advantage and read every page and really capture the true essence of what Jane has been talking about. And Jane, I feel very honored to know you and to be able to have been sharing in this process with you. And I love the cover. It is absolutely gorgeous.
Sexy as hell, isn't it? Oh my God, the cover. I swear, I'm telling you, I'm getting a tattoo with that on. I'm getting a tattoo. It's so awesome. But we're going to be launching products around this. I'm excited. We're designing and developing everything as we speak. But the most important thing is, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, hey, I'm going to get the book because I just want to support you, what I want you to do is think of someone that could use that book. Because 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have been abused to some degree by the age of 18.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's a high stat. So if you're sitting in a room right now, count out 1, 2, 3, that one, 1, 2, 3, that one. It's a high percentage. So if you yourself have not experienced it, please do me a favor, give this gift, because this truly is the gift of a new life. And I'm not saying the sea is going to part, but I'm going to tell you, the mind is going to shift in ways that you've never experienced before. I promise you, that's my guarantee. Or you can come show up and I'll buy the book back from you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jane, for being the amazing you that you are, and what you do, what you bring to the world. I'm truly honored. And,
thank you, Becky. And Becky's my publisher, so for God's sake, give her credit as well. She's getting this thing out. We want to be at the top of the charts. And if we're not, I will get it to the top of the charts. I'm telling you, over time, this will be the only book that you will want to read when it comes to changing who you are.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you, Jane. And we'll watch the stats today. And I know there's a lot of comments already coming in.
Yay.
Saying that I'm going to get this book. So
I can't see the comments. I cannot see the comments, everybody. Know that X's and O's. Oh, always the opposite on StreamYard. X's and O's, great love coming to you. I appreciate you for supporting me and supporting those who need this. And I can't wait to see what this develops into.
Well, and be sure and share it with somebody that could really benefit. All right. Very good. Here's to an awesome book launch day.
Wow.
Yeah.